Alright, party people, morning people. I don't even know what time of day I'm posting this, so it doesn't really matter if it's morning or not, I guess, but it's a couple minutes after 10 a.m. I'm about to go run some errands. Yeah. I don't have a heavy daily update. Just, sorry, I'm chewing gum. Wow. Sorry about that. That wasn't like a good choice. But I didn't expect, to be driving necessarily. So I didn't really consider that I was gonna be recording this morning too. I'm trying to see, I don't know. I want to record while I drive sometimes. Because it's, I don't know, like I like listening to music in the whatever on the radio, but it's like I feel like this is a little more productive. It's a little multitasky, I guess, but it's, I don't know, no more complex than talking on the phone, I guess. I hit record before I'm driving, so yeah, but I don't know, guys. I think I'm coming to a little bit of a conclusion of a little bit more details about what's up with my sleep. I don't really know. The stuff with these doctors and whatnot is not going so quickly, so I'm kind of getting a little more curious on my own. I'm not saying I shouldn't rely on them, but I'm also not used to relying on doctors. I'm very much like, I don't know, like this is gonna sound terrible. Okay, so it's like I've worked, in settings that promote health. I know it's not recommended to not see doctors and not go into doctors and stuff like that. You're supposed to get routinely checked regardless of what is going on with you. But, I mean, as much as I was kind of growing up with a health message about what to eat and what to, like getting exercise and social interactions and things that are kind of good for the psyche, like as far as like avoiding like violent and aggressive and that kind of like entertainment material and stuff. I think I still need to get used to, seeing doctors and things. Like that's something that I wouldn't say the religious part of my culture made me kind of think about not seeing doctors. It was more so maybe not really seeing my family going in too much. And they have a lot of health problems. Not a lot, but I mean like between the majority of my family members, like there's a lot of people, who have passed from cancer and people who have had cancer who are currently surviving with it. Like I have 3 of my mom's family members that are currently surviving with cancer. One who passed from it with a complication, and one of those 3 people had cancer like way earlier. My grandmother passed of a combination of cancer and other issues. My grandfather did when I was a really little kid. My great-grandmother, I don't think she did. Like she died, I think, mostly of old age. Like she was like 105. And my grandma was like 90-something. My dad's parents were like in their 90s. So my grandparents overall, I don't know how old my great-grandparents were on my dad's side, but my grandparents overall led long lives, but they weren't always healthy. But growing up for me, I was around, when I was younger, I would say that people were somewhat healthy. Like nobody was like going into the doctor all the time and stuff like that. But of course, a lot of times when people are younger, a lot of that stuff takes a while to catch up to a point where it's like, oh, that's not good. I think yeah, so, and I start looking at the age ranges where a lot of my family members started having health problems. And that's why, and my friends too, I've had like 3, 4, I don't know how many friends who have had like heart issues like in their late 30s or early 40s. And so that's one thing that led me to kind of like look at my life and kind of realize, the strain and unhealthy, like I'm still getting used to recognizing unhealthy habits. And right now I'm kind of focused on the sleep stuff. Because I have actually experienced now what it's like and how good I feel when I have good sleep, which might sound stupid to say, but it's like, I've run myself ragged for so many years consecutively and had a job that was so stressful that, and all this other kind of lifestyle choices that were just so stressful that, I wasn't too, how do you say, like, I guess I wasn't, maybe the most, I wasn't the most, like, aware of, the things I wasn't taking care of. And while I haven't had like a lot of like severe issues, I have noticed like my body and my mind are definitely impacted negatively by a lot of the choices I've been making. And I don't like it. Like, I don't like feeling sluggish and crappy and foggy and irritable and all these other kinds of things, and like not being able to sleep and just not just being able to just go about my day and just like wake up, do what I want to do and all that other stuff. I'm like, well, I have all this time off. The primary reason wasn't just the party. It was, the party was like the reward for doing it, but it's like, the primary reason was really to focus on my health more. And I'm noticing even with all the time in the world, it's still very challenging for me to focus on my health. It's like, I'm not doing anything else. Like, I am, I'm busy, but it's like, because I've created a schedule for myself. Like, I'm not just like sleeping all day, every day. Like, the past couple days, maybe, yes, I have. I'm kind of struggling with this idea of like, do I rest when I'm tired, or do I keep pushing like I always do? Like, because that's kind of a new idea that's come to me, which I feel like a lot of this stuff is like baby level stuff. It's like, most people know these things, but it's like, it's taken me a while to be like, when I hear things with people saying like, oh, treat yourself like you would a child or whatever. And I think about it and I'm like, well, if I had a kid that was sick or having some health conditions, or, if I knew that they needed to improve their health or something, would I keep pushing them, like, would I just take time and kind of like, hey, let's actually take it easy and just like really take this full break? Like, how would I really handle that, And I started thinking about that like this morning. And I was kind of like, I had this whole plan that I had listed out last night when I was at the beach recording. And, this morning I was like, okay, like, I'm going to implement this plan. And now I'm kind of like, okay, I don't know if I have to do all that today. Like, it's only Monday. So basically last night I didn't really have anything in my system. I didn't really vape at night. I had a little bit of CBD, but around like 5:30 p.m. And then I kind of realized I had an Amazon return due. So I got up, showered. That was kind of what got me up and out last night, even though like usually I go out in the day, like you guys know, but like I got up and out last night and started going to, I don't know. I just got up and out last night and started, I've got my Amazon return done with like 5 minutes to spare, and then it was due last night too, and so I got it done. And then I decided, I'm already out. Let me just drop by the beach and just chill and record some podcasts, and then, look at some analytics and stuff. And then, I was actually doing pretty well last night. I felt pretty rested after the weekend of resting, and then I went to go and sorry, I'm looking for something while I'm driving here. Found it. I went to go find this, I don't know. Let me get back to this because I'm kind of busy right now. All right. So where was I at? So yesterday, at this point, because today is May 22nd of 2023. So last night, I went to this, I went to the beach, and, I was online a little bit. I was like, okay, it's 10. Like, I told myself, like, so it was like a little bit after 10, and I was like, okay, maybe, like, lights out, because I got back before 10 p.m., and so I was like, okay, lights out. And I wasn't too disciplined on it, though. Dang. I'm trying to go down a dead-end street and everything. I'm trying to take a different direction here. I like doing that, just so I kind of learn the different routes, because there's always construction, and it's always good to know an alternative. Okay, so if I go left, it's a dead-end fence. So, alright, go right then. So yeah. I'm trying to navigate these back alleys. Dude, that's more than a pothole. That's like a freaking... Gotta drive around that guy. Yeah, so last night, I ended up, sleeping a little late, but, the interesting part to it was that, I hadn't had any real sleep-related supplements or anything. No melatonin, no CBD. Like I mentioned, the CBD was like maybe 5:30 p.m. The vaping was not right before bed. I was like, let me just try like not vaping. I didn't smoke any flower, nothing, nothing at all, pretty much. And I did, it was Sunday. I had a little bit of sativa earlier in the day, but it was probably like 2 milligrams or something. It was like a really low amount. I don't really know how to dose it because it was like a part of a 100 milligram gummy that it was like a little piece left. Like I noticed it, but it wasn't like, I wouldn't say I was like stoned. Like I could have gone shopping or like done whatever, So, yeah. So, yeah, I ended up having like a kind of nightmare, like a bad dream. But it was weird though, because I was like, well, I don't need anything to fall asleep tonight because, I'm falling asleep. Like by like, I don't know, let's call it like 10:45. I started feeling a little tired. And then around closer to 11 p.m., I really noticed, I was like, okay, if I just kind of like am not focusing on my phone or not like really focusing on anything, I can kind of close my eyes and I start kind of like drifting a little bit. And so I kind of noticed that, and I was like, okay, which is weird because I had been napping like the majority of the day. It's not like I didn't, like 2 days, like the majority of Sunday and the majority of Saturday. Like I didn't nap all day long, but compared to how hard it is for me to usually nap, like I always say, like I never really nap, So I've been adjusting this caffeine, and because I'm not having the normal amount of caffeine, it turns out that I'm able to just like go to bed by like 11 or so. Naturally, I'm just falling asleep, even if I had napped during the day with nothing in my system, I'm able to even fall asleep without any kind of like sleep aid of any kind. And so this is like the past couple days that I'm kind of like just noticing this, because I was running out of everything. I ran out of CBD. I ran out of everything. And so I was like, well, before I go spend money and buy more stuff, let me just do this, let me just go try this, and I didn't even get 90 minutes into sleeping, before I had a nightmare already. So it's like, okay. Like, I started going to sleep. I think I pushed to stay awake because I was like, well, if I can just fall asleep, I might as well just stay awake. You know what I mean? And so, because I didn't really want to go to bed. Like, I didn't do anything yesterday. So I was kind of like, once I was kind of home from the beach and then just kind of like online, like looking at analytics and stuff, and like, I got a little bit of gears turning, like not too much, but I was a little bit like, it was a little dopamine hit, like a slight amount, enough to make me want to not be like, too in my head about stuff. And I was just kind of like wanting to actually like stay up a little bit and at least watch YouTube or something like that. So I started watching these Hitomi Mochizuki videos because I love her content, and I was just like, I watched one. A lot of it was about like foods that she was cooking and stuff, and I really love the stuff she cooks. And then I watched another one. I started watching the one that was posted, I guess, before that, kind of more about like mental health journey related stuff, and I really enjoyed it, and it was really pleasant. And the reason why I liked it was because a lot of it was stuff that I've been like thinking about. Okay, like, I want to maybe do some more in these areas, like eat a little healthier, maybe switch up a little of the stuff I'm eating, but like I don't really know what that looks like because I'm not too creative in that area. And so, I kind of noticed like, oh yeah, I remember her content that I loved, and like, let me just go back to like catching up with some of her content, because it's been a while. I hadn't watched anything by her in a bit. And so I was glad to see she had content out that I hadn't seen, and I was like getting into it. But then once I was realizing it's getting later, and I'm like, okay, I do have all these plans in the morning, like let me just go to bed. So I was like, okay, midnight's going to be my limit. So like around 11:50 p.m., I was already kind of dozing. I turned on this episode of, an episode, like I guess one of the most recent episodes of Michael Seeley's videos, because I also haven't been listening to any of his stuff either. He does these like sleep hypnosis, sleep kind of talk down kind of episodes, and this one was for like fatigue and exhaustion and things like that. And I started thinking of one of my friends who deals with that, and started thinking about how I was feeling over the weekend. And I was like, well, maybe I do need this video, and like it's more like audio. I don't really watch them, I just listen. So I was like, let me just listen to this. And that's how I know how long I had been sleeping, because I went to sleep. I turned that on before I went to sleep, and when I woke up and I actually remembered to like check the phone, like it was at like an hour 19 minutes. So that means it was less than an hour 19 minutes that I had been sleeping, and I had some weird nightmare. And so the nightmare was, I don't know exactly the initial details, but I wrote it down. So what I remember off the top of my head from after I wrote it down was, I think me and my brother were, I see sirens up, I see flashing lights up ahead, so we might have some sirens to deal with. Sorry guys. But yeah, me and my brother were like, I think it was me and my brother, and we were in like a plane or something, and something was going on to where it was gonna crash, or it was not doing good, like something with his plane. Wow, that wasn't too loud. That's weird. It feels like it's usually louder when I'm like in the house. And that drove like right past me. That's crazy. But yeah, so me and him were in a plane or something, flying, maybe a hang glider, I don't know. And it was over the beach at night. I want to say it was Mission Bay area, Mission Beach, like over by Belmont Park area. I don't know, like in my head that's what it was, but there was nothing really to signify that that's where it was. And, whatever we had, it was like it seemed like a seat cushion with some kind of oars or something. I don't know. Like, it was some dream made up thing. But anyways, I was like paddling, and somehow I realized that the water was super shallow. And so I told whoever it was, which I believe was my brother, I told whoever it was that I was with, like, and this is nighttime in the ocean, and I'm like, hey, like, it's shallow, we can walk. And so we just kind of started walking. And from what I remember, I mean, there's cuts, so I don't remember exactly if this person was my brother or not, but from what I remember, eventually from that point, I was walking near, I used to live at Villa Vista Apartments in San Diego, and so I was walking near those apartments, and those are apartments that I actually would plan to apply to live at again. And, the walk from Mission, you can walk from Mission Beach to Linda Vista. It's maybe like with no traffic, like a 12-minute drive if you take like the SeaWorld route up like Friars and over there. Like, it's maybe like 12 minutes without traffic, but usually I'd say it takes like 20-25 minutes, maybe even like 45 minutes if you have to park, and it's summer, maybe even 2 hours sometimes to park, honestly, unfortunately. But yeah, so that was kind of the only thing I was doing. I was, there, and some reason, I got over to this area where, there was a little bit of confusion. I don't know, like, so in my mind, I was with my brother, we walked to Villa Vista Apartments, or something like it, or something near there, or something, I don't know. And then, so we get over to that area, and we, I don't know, I guess we were looking for the main road, which would have been Linda Vista Road, but I guess we were looking for that road. But Villa Vista Apartments is not that huge of a complex, but in my dream, it was like super huge and super big and super like populated, and like this was night still in the dream, and like there were a lot of people out. Like, there were kind of like gates separating like different areas, and like stuff that's not even really there in real life. Like, it was huge. It was probably like a complex that was like probably like 6 or 7 times bigger than it actually is in real life, and then looked different. Like, the color schemes were a little bit similar, but it looked different. It had way more like buildings and creepy people. Like, it just had a lot of weird people there. And I don't know what to say about that, but it just had weird people. Like, I was at a certain point, I guess maybe because we had been in the water, I wanted to change my clothes into something dry. I don't really know if that's why, but I excused myself a little bit away from my brother so I could like change, and he's like somewhere where he can't see, and then I'm over, like, I go closer to some like fence that you can, like a gate that you can kind of like see through, but it's like, I thought I was the only one over there, and then it turned out in the dream, of course, and this is all the dream, it turned out in the dream that there were other people kind of on the other side of this like low metal gate, and there were like these kind of creepy guys. Not like, there was nothing really that they were doing that was creepy. It's just like they were quiet, like nobody was saying anything, and I didn't notice them. And that's not like me. Like, I'm usually very aware of my surroundings, but either they came over or they were already there, and I didn't really notice them. And so I get over there, I start changing, and somehow I kind of like recognize, oh, there's somebody like right here, and they're like probably like, I'm like maybe a foot away from this gate, and they're like maybe 2 feet on the other side of it. Like, they weren't like far away, and I was just kind of like, oh, that's strange that I didn't like recognize them. And I'm like, oh, sorry, and I was wearing like boxer briefs or something, like guys boxer briefs or something, and I'm like putting on these shorts, and these guys just kind of, they weren't doing anything weird, just looking strange, and it gave me like an odd feeling. I was like, why are they looking so oddly at me? And I felt like it was a little weird because I was like, well, I'm not doing anything. And like, the stuff I was wearing, like there was nothing like provocative or sexual or anything about it. Like I was just changing into something dry or whatever. And, you know, and that's something that I do. Like you guys know, I go to the beach, if I'm at the beach, like I've talked about it before, like sometimes I'll just drive home with my clothes, once they're dry enough. Like I don't really fully do the whole like change and shower and get cleaned up and all this kind of stuff. It's like, well, I'm going straight home usually anyways, and so if I'm going straight home anyways, I usually just shower once I get home, you know what I mean? Like I don't really do too much in addition to that while I'm at the beach because I live right there. I try not to mess up the cars and stuff, but it's like I don't usually like change like too thoroughly, I'm usually like, okay, like I'm sandy and dirty, like let me just go home and shower. But yeah, so it was weird in this dream that these people were there, kind of like aware that I was there. They were being kind of quiet, like I didn't notice them, but I got like a creepy feeling because of just the way they were kind of looking. Like they kind of gave some kind of, not a sexual, it wasn't sexual, it was kind of like a look of like, when you're in, I don't know if people can relate to this, but sometimes you'll be in a place where you're maybe in a neighborhood or something, and some neighborhoods are friendlier than others. And you'll be in a neighborhood and somebody's kind of like looking at you like, do they need to worry? Kind of giving you like an intimidating, I don't know, like the places where everybody hangs out. I can't really say like if it's different or whatever, but I mean, I'm from LA. There's some places where you go and you're just like, you can tell that like nobody's gonna be like welcoming you with like super open arms. Like I used to work in some pretty rough neighborhoods and stuff, and like usually everybody was nice and polite, inquisitive and curious, but on occasion you'd come across somebody who wants to act all like hard and like tough and just kind of throw their weight around and stuff, and it's like, that's just kind of how it is. But I was always respectful to people, so nobody was ever like messing with me or anything. It's just, that's just how it is. Like, that some people, they're around more suspicious types of people and places and stuff like that, and so they're kind of hardened, and that's how it is in some areas, and that's just the culture of things. And so I don't take offense to it. Like I get it, that's just kind of how it is. But I mean, I would prefer that it wasn't a thing, but it is a thing, so whatever. But they were kind of giving that kind of vibe, but it was like 3 or 4 guys, maybe up to 6 guys. And I was like, why are they looking at me all like suspiciously? Because like I'm not doing anything, because I was trying to like determine like, okay, why are they looking at me like this? Like, are they looking at me because I'm not fully clothed? Are they looking at me because like, am I in the middle of like some kind of like drug deal that I'm not supposed to be witnessing or something like that? Or like, what is it that's going on? Like I could tell that they didn't necessarily want me there, but also like they had no real grounds to like try to like intimidate me to like go away. But I kind of just was trying to like understand kind of like, okay, what is going on here? Like what is going on in this experience? Like I was trying to like, just like you do, like when you don't really understand something, you try and like figure out what's going on. And so that's what I was doing. I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I don't know if I ever really did. But anyways, like that wasn't so bad. And then we were walking around like looking for the road, and I remember thinking and kind of telling my brother like, man, it's usually easy to find, because it is like usually like that place isn't that big. Like if you walk from like one end and then go to the other end, you're eventually going to hit a street. Like there's streets on all of the borders, and so you're eventually going to hit a street. It's not that hard to find a street, but in this dream, it was like very complicated to find the street. And, you know, we're kind of asking around, but like as we're walking around, we're finding all these like different places, like all these different, we're seeing all these different little regions that aren't, you know, they're in the dream, but these don't really exist at the actual property. Like, this isn't even an unsafe property, guys. Like, I never really had any issues there other than the roommate's mother that moved in with us. Like, I never really had any legit problems, you know? Like, I only had, like, I never had any, like, legit kind of problems. But yeah, I, I I don't know. Like, I feel like it was just a dream, you know, but it was a weird dream because I've mentioned before, I don't have a lot of nightmares. I guess apparently I can, but yeah, so we were coming, just walking around, you know, just looking for the street, but kind of noticing like, okay, this isn't like the nicest place to be at or safest place, because there were people, like some places where we walked by, there were people kind of like in tears or crying. Other places, they seemed like they were just like bugging out on something. Like, there were people out. Like, there were a lot of people kind of out. Like, it wasn't like packed, but it's like when you go by doorways, or like there'd be people just kind of like in the little courtyard area, and just like the people we were coming across, it wasn't like all friendly, like people out walking their dogs and like just smiling, saying hi or whatever, or getting some evening strolling in. It was like some weird, a combination of that kind of stuff and just like weird shady stuff kind of going on, where I'm just like, I don't remember it being like this. And then I, something happens where those weird guys come back around. Like, we kind of, in the courtyard, there's all these like, like walking paths you can take. And we're on a walking path where, I kind of recognize them. And I tell my brother, I'm like, oh man, like these guys are no good. Like, here they come again. But we didn't know, like, what are we going to like turn around? Like, we didn't know what to do. So we're just like, well, we're already walking this direction. And so we just kind of, it wasn't like a big conversation. We were just kind of like, I just told them like, yeah, they're kind of weird, and like, we got to look out for them kind of thing. And then next thing I know, they're trying to like attack him. And he's like telling me like, run, like get out of here. And so I like listen to him. I'm like, okay. And so in the dream, I'm like running, like trying to find this stupid street. And I'm just like screaming like at the top of my lungs, like help, help, and like, cause I don't know what's happening back there. Like when I left this setting, he seemed like he was going to be able to like fend off whatever was going on. And it was out of sight, out of my ear shot, so I couldn't really hear or see or notice what was happening. But I was running around just kind of like in distress and like kind of like, trying to get someone to help us. And strangely enough, there's nobody around at that time. It's like, of all the weird people that we saw before and all the other strange things happening, there's nobody in sight. So I'm just like, well, if I can just run and find the freaking street. And so I start trying to run and find the main street, because I'm like, well, it's a main street, I could just like pop out in the middle of the road and like stop a car or something, like, like, I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? I mean, I didn't think to go like knock on apartment doors or anything, but it's like, it's a dream. And so I'm like trying to get help. Eventually I'm like, I find the street, but like something happens where there's this other group of people that's like, they seemed a little familiar for some reason, but there's no one I can identify in my real life. But they seemed a little familiar in the dream. So I'm like, okay, like I kind of know these people a little bit, or maybe they're acquaintances. I don't really know. But it was kind of like, oh, like what's going on? And I was like, I don't remember if I told them like something was going on with my brother or whatever. But I was like clearly in distress, and they were like, they calmed me down, and then we kind of just get into this like chit chat conversation. And then I don't know, like I was like thinking the whole time, I'm like, man, I hope my brother's okay. And I'm like, I don't remember if I told them or not, but I was kind of just like, I guess I told them and maybe they played it off, or maybe I didn't tell them at all. But I was like, I wasn't feeling calmed down. I was just like they were trying to talk to me or catch up or something. And I remember just being like in my head about like what's going on with my brother. Like I kind of need to know like if the situation's like improved or like what's happening. Um and oh wow, there's some really cool dolphins. Yes. I'm sorry, I love dolphins. I gotta get a shot of these guys. If I can open the windows. If I can open this car. This car's gonna drive me insane. Alright, I got my dolphin shots. Now there's this gigantic crow over here. I don't know. So, yeah, my brother's getting, like, whatever's happening over there, and I'm kind of, like, somewhere else with other people, and it's just a confusing situation. And I was there for a while with these people, and then one of my friends, a childhood friend that me and my brother have in common, comes up to our group, and he's like in tears, and I'm just like, what's wrong? He's just like, your brother. And so I go over to him, like, because I couldn't really hear what he was saying. So I come down from like this stairway where I'm like talking to these other people, and I go over to him, and I'm like, what's wrong? Like, is he okay? Is he alive? And then he's like, yeah, he's alive, but he's just not good. We need to call 911. And so I'm like, okay. So I get out my phone. I'm trying to call 911. Of course, you know, in a dream scenario, or nightmare scenario rather, like, you can't do anything right. And so I think in this dream I didn't have Wi-Fi or something. I didn't have like a SIM card, or like I didn't have data, or like there was something where like I didn't have a phone plan. I wasn't connected to a phone plan, but I think I had data. And so I was trying to figure out, like, can I use an app? Because I couldn't use my phone because I didn't technically have a phone. I just had like a small device that had Wi-Fi. So I'm trying to figure out what app I can use, or if I can call on the phone, or like what can I do to get police called or ambulance called or somebody to like come help. And yeah, like I woke up around then. And yeah, it was a pretty distressing dream, and so I couldn't go back to sleep right away. So I was up till a little bit after 3. And then I woke up like 6 something, like a little bit before 7 this morning. So I was like, I have all this stuff on my to-do list, and I was all like ready to just get up and go do it. And then I was like, no, let me do the phone stuff today, the stuff I need to do on the phone this morning, and then the stuff I need to do out of the house, and then go do the podcasting, then go home and rest, and then work on these job applications, because I was going to have some crazy schedule today. And I'm just like, I was going to go to the gym and go to the lab and do all this other stuff, and I'm like, I don't really need to be doing all that. That's a little much, considering that I have a whole 5-day work week, busy, like weekdays ahead of me. Why do I need to push, Plus, yesterday I did have that weird sinus thing. As of now, it is kind of decreasing, but even this morning I kind of felt it a little bit still. So I don't really know what's going on. But it's like, I'm trying to pay attention to my body, and it's not easy, I feel like we're in a culture where you're kind of taught how to grind and how to just like push. At least where I'm from, you're not taught to practice self-care over your work ethic. Like, you're supposed to prioritize work, education, that kind of stuff, and then keep things balanced and notice when you're getting off track a little bit, but like not necessarily take days off, or like I've been mentioned, like the whole time I was growing up, I barely remember my dad taking PTO ever, and he had PTO, and he even mentioned, I don't know how long ago, he was like, when you guys, when he left, because he used to work at UCLA, and he worked there for ages. And when he left, he was like, yeah, I had, I don't know how much PTO. And I was like, oh, I hope you cashed it out or something. And he was like, yeah, I don't think you're allowed to cash it out. And I can't remember how much he said, but it was at the least, I want to say $1,500 worth. I mean, 1,500 hours worth. And he was getting a really high hourly wage. So if it wasn't 1,500 hours, like it was over 100, it was like in the 1,000 range of hours, maybe even more than that. But, I don't remember. I remember him getting sick, really ill, like once when I was a kid. Um, Maybe twice, and it may have been within the same time period, but I don't remember him taking work off that other time. But there was another time where he was sick, and I think he took some days off work. Like, I don't remember him taking even like 6 days off work, honestly, like when I was a kid. And if you're getting paid time off, that's kind of weird. And, still, he would do church every Saturday. Like, we would do church every morning till afternoon. And then, usually him and my mom would be resting. Like, once we got older, they would just kind of rest and just let us go do whatever. But I think Saturdays, he used to take us to the park, like, after church, after church and stuff on Saturdays. And we would go out and, like, I remember just going to the park a lot or just like stuff like that. Maybe it was to give my mom a couple hours to herself because that would have been like the only time she would have to herself on Saturdays, and then giving my dad time to like spend with us because otherwise, other than Saturdays, we kind of didn't really see the guy. And when we did, he was in a bad mood, so we just kind of avoided him in all honesty. But yeah, like maybe that's why. I don't really know. I don't talk to them about this kind of stuff, but yeah, like that's kind of what I remember, is him having those days, like we did have a very structured week for like years, like up till high school, when we started making more choices to like do different stuff with our friends on like Saturday afternoons, Friday nights, that kind of stuff. Like my parents were very like regimented with our routines, like, like it wasn't like obvious, but looking back, I'm like, yeah, we kind of had the same schedule all the time, for years on end. And then, which is fine. I mean, it was a pretty well-rounded schedule. And then I was part of like a church and school that, we'd go on trips and stuff too. So it's like we would get out a little bit and we got to see a lot of stuff. But like my parents hardly traveled. Like I remember spending like the summer vacation, part of the summer vacation when I turned 10 years old, we spent some of that in Missouri, but my dad wasn't there most of that time. I'm pretty sure he was there to drive, but I feel like it was just me and my mom and her mom and a cousin and, just the people who lived around the area, the family members. I want to say we spent a month or something. I don't know. I really don't know, honestly. But yeah, I'm trying to think, like, I don't remember hardly ever seeing my dad take days off. Like, I could count the times that I think I remember, and I might even be overshooting. Because they might have been all one time, like, which is kind of weird. Like, if you get paid days off, why wouldn't you take them off? You know what I mean? Like, that just shows kind of like something a little odd. But that's kind of what I grew up seeing, like, and even going to school, like, we would go to school. Like, I kind of started learning, oh, if you're sick, you can still go to school when you're sick. Like, you would always hear people say, oh, if you're sick, don't come to school, stay home. And my mom, for the most part, worked at home. Like, she was a homemaker most of the time. Like, sometimes she had outside jobs. Usually, she didn't. And so, to stay home from school, it's like, well, somebody's home. It's not like, somebody has to hire a babysitter, or like, there was no major extra inconvenience for me to stay home. But I just kind of learned, like, hey, if you're sick, just keep pushing. And, like, I remember when I was younger, I used to have days where I'd feel kind of like off. Like, I'd be like 5 years old. Like, I remember kindergarten, and a lot of days, like, I learned if I said I had a stomach ache or a headache and all that stuff. And maybe I did. I don't even remember if I did or not. But I do remember I did start getting, like, headaches and stomach aches and stuff. And maybe it was just, I can't remember if, like, I was just saying that so I could stay home, but I wasn't just trying to stay home so I could like play. Like I literally would stay home and then be on the couch and just like be napping on the couch. Like something was up, you know? Like but then eventually like my dad caught wind of it and was like, "Yeah, you can't be skipping all these days." So I kind of stopped skipping days. And just sucked it up and went to school. And then I remember again, that happened again in high school. Probably like my junior and senior year of high school, I started just feeling kind of like not so great all the time, and I skipped some days. I think I had skipped like 8 days or 13 days. I don't know how many days, but like at that time, my parents had been going to work. Like both of them were working. I think I don't know. I don't remember honestly. I don't know, but I feel like at that time, um, maybe I would have been home by myself or what. I don't know. But all the times when I was skipping school, I just remember, I was kind of like laying down and like trying to rest and stay in bed and stuff. Like I wasn't like skipping and then like, I'm gonna like wake up and like dance around the house and like I wasn't having fun. Like I really wasn't feeling that great, but I was able to stay home a little bit, but then, again, like once my dad kind of caught wind that I was like taking days off and stuff, he was just like, "Yeah, you need to just go to school and not take days off and stuff." Because I remember I would take days off when I had cramps or something like that. Like I would just take days off because I was like, dude, I really just don't feel good. But then I learned, like you have cramps, you go to school. Like you don't not go to school. You can't not go to school once a month, like you just gotta go. And so like, instead of like the idea of like, hey, you're having a problem, let's go get that fixed, it's like just keep working, and it wasn't like harsh. Like I wouldn't say that anybody was like harshly like punishing me if I didn't do it or whatever. Like it was just like I could tell. I was like, something's a little up with my energy. But because we had such a regimented kind of schedule, I was able to kind of push. And like I mentioned before, I think yesterday I was saying like I was raised with like yesterday I was saying like I was raised drinking tea for breakfast, caffeine for breakfast. Like I've almost always had caffeine in the mornings. Even like there were times when I stopped, but then I eventually get back into it again. And I do think maybe some of that contributed to my ability to kind of just get up and push, because it was like, well, I had a little bit of caffeine in my system, so I had some energy to be able to get up and do stuff. And then because I had a schedule where I wouldn't say I was forced, but I also never like declined. I kind of just went with the flow. Like there were plans. Usually if I was feeling bad, I kind of just went and did whatever I was supposed to do, like whatever was on the schedule anyway. So like I'll briefly describe what my schedule used to look like, but this is like, I don't want to go in too much detail, but basically, most of the time, like I think up until, so I want to say from grade 3 to grade 10, we would go to school, at a private school. And so usually we would do a combination of, depending on when it was, like earlier on, we used to carpool a lot. And then later on, I think we started getting away from the carpool because we had like a lot of families that lived like right near one another. So we had this kind of carpool system where, my mom would take us over to this other church friend's house that lived, let's call it 3 miles away. And then that mom would take us over to this other, to the pastor's house who lived over by, over by LAX kind of, and El Segundo. And that pastor would take us all the way to school, or sometimes that one of the parents would pick us up after school and bring us all home, or like whatever. Like I don't know what the actual schedule was, but we had a carpool schedule at one point. And then we now we have like then we after that we had a like a schedule where my mom just kind of drove us straight to school because I remember listening to my Walkman all the time and doing my math homework every day in the car on the way to school. We did like because every other answer was in the back of the book, so I guess all the odds were in the back of the book, and it was 30 questions, pretty much 30 questions every night. And so like we would just write down the answers to the questions in the back of the book, and then we would do 15 questions, and then I'd spend my lunchtime finishing up my math because math was after lunch. And me and my brother kind of both did that with our math assignments. And then, so I remember that my mom was driving us to school, and we didn't live far from LAX, and we were driving all the way to like the South Bay area for school. And then, so we had that schedule, like weekdays, get to school. I think that school started at 8:30, and then we'd go till 3:30, and then we'd have some kind of carpool combination home, or we'd stay after school a little bit and somebody would take us home. And, we usually did our homework right after school, or, if we had the carpool friends over, which were church friends, after school, we would play this game called Double Goalies or whatever. Like, we would play, like, sports. We'd, like, make up our own sports games and play those. So that's kind of what we would do. And then, that's kind of what we would do. And in high school, I guess, because I lived so close to the high school, once I went, I finished out my senior year at a public high school and would just walk across to the school. But once my parents, my dad started leaving pretty much at the same exact time that I would be walking, so I would just hop in the car with them because I was like, well, what's the point in like waiting when you can just drop me at the crosswalk? Like it was a little bit of a walk, but it was like maybe a block away, maybe 2 blocks away, but he was going that way anyways, and it's like, well, if I'm gonna start walking at the same time that you're gonna start driving, like I might as well just get a ride. And so around that time I was getting less and less exercise. I no longer had PE class. Like I think from 10th grade on, I didn't have PE class, but I still was playing sports league up until my first year of school. Of grad school. So basically, that was what the weekdays looked like, was just school, basically. School, homework, and maybe a little time after school with friends. There was a point where my mom was working at the school late, and so we would just stay late with my mom, and she would drive us home when she was done working. And so, that's how it would go with the school stuff. And then outside of the school stuff, we had Friday nights. So when we were kids, we used to stay home Friday nights and watch like TGIF or like that kind of thing. Then like I think Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon. Maybe that was like Saturday nights. But when we were younger, we didn't really go out that much Friday nights, Saturday nights. We would stay home Friday nights, watch those kind of shows, go to bed, wake up, go to church. Sabbath school was usually at like 9 or 9:30 a.m. So we'd have breakfast at home together and then go to church. And then usually if the church didn't have a potluck, we'd come home and have some kind of Chinese takeout or go out to lunch or whatever. And it would usually be a bigger meal. And then Saturday nights we'd have like something lighter. Or once I became a teen, and then we'd just like watch shows, like me and my brother or whatever. Or maybe we'd have friends over and sleepovers and stuff. Sometime between Friday and Saturday, because I would see the same kids every day, so it's like you could have a sleepover technically Friday, Saturday, and then go home Sunday, because we would see them at church, we'd see them Sunday at Sports League. So like later on, once I got older, on Saturdays I used to go out with friends. We used to kind of like go out to movies or whatever. And then the next day, we always had sports league, and so we would play either soccer, basketball, or baseball. I think I stopped playing baseball in like eighth grade or something, and I played basketball through 10th grade, I think, and then I played soccer uh, uh, through my first year of grad school, up until like I stopped playing during my first year of grad school. I stopped playing after the first game because I got injured. I hyperextended my knee really badly, and that was the first time I realized how long it had been since I'd played sports. And I was running, and I was like, "Whoa, I feel so slow." Like, and I'm actually getting very winded very easily, and I was not used to that because I'd had a few years from like my junior year of high school, maybe all the way through to my first year of grad school, where I hadn't really been too active. Like, there was some time in there where I was, I don't know if it was which school it was between now, but I think, yeah, I was working for, no, this was after I graduated from that grad school that I started doing P90X and all that stuff. So, um, yeah, so basically, um, the morning was pretty, my mornings were pretty okay, like, but I would notice waking up and being like, oh, I'm not very well rested. But because I had this kind of schedule, I just kind of went with it, like, because every day there was something to do, and I was like, I liked the people I was around. It was like a community of people. I was used to seeing them. Like, we all grew up together from when we were like 5 years old or something. And so I saw pretty much the same people until I was like in grad school, pretty much. Like, or like maybe in my bachelor's program, but like still, a lot of us lived in the same neighborhood. We had cars, we had transportation, we could get around, we could meet. We would see each other at church related functions. We'd invite each other to each other's functions and stuff. Like, we were very interactive. And so, um, yeah, I kind of grew up with that kind of schedule. And so, yeah, it was a little bit, um, challenging to see. Like, when I look back, I'm like, okay, like, I've kind of lived with this pattern of like expectations, which weren't necessarily bad expectations, but also I didn't fully learn how to like take care of myself in a lot of these other ways. Like, I did learn some of it, but I didn't learn everything. So there's still things that are like impacting me that I'm like having to slowly adjust. And one of them is definitely the sleep, where I'm just like, oh, like, now that I've had some time off of work, because I've never had this many consecutive months free, other than when I was between like uh, grad school and the school in San Diego's grad school, or between you know, my bachelor's program and master's program. But I think both of those I had about a year off. But I was also kind of looking for work, and then started working, and like I was busy. Like, I was studying for the GRE. I was doing all kinds of stuff, like going to the gym and stuff like that. Like, I actually was very busy. And I was planning to go back to school. So I guess I hadn't really made a commitment really to try to actively do something during those times off. I was just like, oh, I'm off. And then I kind of left it at that. Because I was off, but like I wasn't really fully like, you know, prepared to be, uh, doing anything. I was just off, you know what I mean? So, um, but, um, yeah, so I have had some times off, but not like this one. This one's different because this one is like I had some money. I was quitting for health related reasons. It's not like, oh, like this chapter just kind of naturally ended and now I have a break while I'm getting ready and applying for the next phase and trying to do all these other things in between. It's not exactly the same. Like, I am moving to another phase, but it's kind of like for different reasons and in a different way and with a different financial situation, um, with a lot of different friend groups and just a lot of differences. Um, but I do know more about health now, and I do know more about healthy living. It's just implementing some of it. Um, I'm starting to look at things little by little and realizing, okay, this could be tweaked a little towards something healthier. That could be changed towards something a little bit healthier. And stuff that I was completely overlooking, like just the things like I'm saying today. Like ordinarily, I would plow through Monday, and and it's hard for me to kind of, visualize like what is an actual solid break? Like, what does a break look like, right? Like, because it might sound stupid. Like, someone like me doesn't really know. Like, I look around sometimes and I'm like, I see some people's work ethic, not everybody, but I see some people's work ethic where I'm like, okay, like they don't want to move up in their job or they don't want to have like a better financial situation, even though it's like I can see they're struggling maybe financially or they're struggling, um, you know, maybe with their self-esteem or they're struggling with their health, but they're not really trying to actively change anything. And so I see some people in my life that are like that, where it's like, I see the stuff that's kind of like not helpful for them, as far as what they've got going on. Like, not to judge them, but I'm just saying, like, I see that, like, oh, they're struggling, but they're not like trying to do anything different, And I'm like, okay, I see that a lot, and I'm like, I don't feel like I'm doing that. I think I have done that, but I don't feel like I'm doing that. I always kind of knew I would eventually do something different because I already knew I had goals about stuff, and it's just, I feel like everyone else was kind of ready for me to move into doing these things faster, and seeing everybody doing it around me a lot faster is different too. And then, but I kind of march to the beat of my own drum, and I know that, and it's kind of been, motivating to see a lot of my friends kind of like getting their relationships together and more solid, and like, some people even getting engaged, gonna get married, and a lot of that's because they've got this financial stability, this, they're kind of settled in their career and stuff like that. But I just didn't see myself really staying in psych to be settled in psych. Like, I was like, it would be nice to be settled in psych, so I was trying to stick it out and see kind of what opportunities and options would come my way. And when I realized that, my goals were different from their goals, I realized I was gonna have to move on, and I wanted to move into other stuff. I'm interested to move into tech, but it's just not the easiest decision all the time, to try to like play around with kind of like work. So yeah, it's something that I'm not too upset with any of this. It's just every day, like, some days seem harder than others, and I'm definitely noticing sometimes I'm like, man, like today is rough. Today's a rough start. That movie I watched Saturday night didn't really help me Sunday morning. Saturday I was feeling kind of like, completely wiped out, and like, it's just not normal for me to not have like a lot of energy. I'm kind of like, I've got a lot of stressful situations going on, but it's like I'm also changing a lot of things at the same time, and they kind of be messing with my sleep. Kind of like whatever I was using for sleep aids, that's kind of, maybe that this wasn't the best time to try to do that, but I've definitely been learning a lot. It's like, I'm not really sure if I've really got the specifics of the trends of what's actually going on down. Like, I don't really know for sure what's going on, but I feel like because the doctors are taking so long, and the situation with that, I thought like I mentioned it before, I thought Thursday I was just going to go see the doctor, or Wednesday, or whatever day that was. I was just going to go see the doctor, tell them what's wrong. They're going to prescribe me melatonin, and I'm going to be walking out with melatonin and be able to get something so I can sleep easily. That's what I had expected was going to happen. I didn't expect that I'm going to need to get the blood work done, and then, I call and I can't really talk to the people, and then I scheduled, and my appointment's not till June 22nd. And then they called again. I guess they didn't get the memo about me scheduling for June 22nd, and they want me to go in to get the labs done. And I can't really, I was like, I was going to do that today, but I'm like, I don't know. I'll probably do it tomorrow, because it's like, I don't want to push to do too many things today. I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm not trying to sit somewhere for like 2-3 hours. I don't think it'll take that long, but it's like, I just don't want to sit around for that long. So I'm going to try to find like a quick option where I can do it. And I'll see what I can do. But I don't know. Like, I don't want to push too many things into my Monday and then not have energy for the job applications, because I want to have energy for those. Like, that's what I'm trying to prioritize. But there are all these other things where I couldn't make any of these calls on the weekends, and all these other providers I'm trying to contact and stuff. And like, I can't call them on the weekend, so I have to call them on the weekdays, and that takes a little bit of time too. And this morning when I woke up, I was like, I just want to go back to bed, but I was like, let me eat breakfast. Let me just go and do the morning stuff that I'm going to do, and then I can relax at my lunch break. And then get to the job applications in the evening, even though I wanted to wake up first thing and do them all in the morning. I think it's okay to be flexible, but it's hard for me to tell when am I being too flexible, and when should I be more flexible? Like, when is it best to be more disciplined? When is it best to be less disciplined? Like, when is it best, like, that's something that is a balance. I think it's gonna take some learning. One thing that I'm glad I've done on this whole time off is that I haven't really, like, I have had some days where I'm just lounging and stuff, but I haven't had a lot of time where I'm completely not productive and just sleeping and watching movies and stuff. Like, I feel like I've been very productive in a good way. Like, I've been productive towards the stuff that I've wanted to learn and wanted to do. So I'm realizing I'm kind of happy with that. Like, I feel like as much of a struggle as things are, I mean, like, the reason why I was taking work off is because I was struggling with things, and I think that's fine. And, I'm still struggling with things. But I think it's because I'm doing a lot too, and pushing myself through different phases and all these other things. So I think on some ends, I need to kind of be a little more flexible when I'm pushing hard on other ends. It's like I need to kind of maybe not push hard on all ends, because that's kind of what I was doing before. And that didn't work. So I don't want to do that now. But I really don't know. Like, it's really hard to kind of gauge. It's just hard to gauge because I'm not familiar with this. Like, it's unfamiliar territory. So, I've got a snack with me. I gotta eat my snack and get on with my other recordings. Sorry about the gum. But that's my daily update for today. I'm kind of scaling back a little bit as far as some of the plans that I had set out to complete. And I think that's what I'm going to have to do so that I can prioritize the most important ones and push off the other stuff just today. I do want the results from the doctor, but it's like, I think, I don't know, like, it can wait a couple days. It's waited so long, it's like, what's 2 days gonna really hurt, They weren't telling me urgently come in and do it now, like, so I'm gonna do it, but, I'm not gonna do it that urgently. The mental health place that I called, they ended up saying that they don't take my insurance, even though I know that they do, because the person I was talking to told me that they did, and they gave me the website that shows me what's available, and the card that I have is the insurance that they said that they take. And then they said that I don't have that insurance, but I have the card for it, so I don't really know. Something's wrong. So I'm gonna have to figure out what that is, if it's like a primary thing or like what the heck, like I don't know. But yeah, I might need a more direct referral from the doctor then, because it's a little bit annoying to try to schedule things on my own. Like, I know how to do it, but it's like it was different when I was doing it for work for other people, but to just do it for myself, I'm like, dude, this is too much. Like, I was just expecting to call and schedule an appointment. And I've been calling for days and they don't answer, and then they finally answered, and then they're saying something different than what I think it is, and I don't know. Like, I'm like, I don't have time for this right now. So I'll figure out another method for a lot of this health stuff, and then I'm still going to go through with all of it. I'm just not going to do it all today like I had initially planned. I feel like I've researched out what I need to kind of do, and I'll just do that slowly throughout the week. And I'm definitely going to rest this afternoon after my lunch and just kind of get things on track for myself. I'm not gonna push too much. I don't want to push myself too hard. Yeah, I don't think it would be wise. I'm already clearly having enough problems as it is without pushing any harder, so I don't think pushing harder is gonna be the solution. I think maybe sticking to the plan but kind of adjusting things will help me more. But yeah, with that, all right. Thanks for listening.